I'm Ruben and I'm the Managing Director at Smudge. Smudge is a software development firm that helps people solve problems in their business with custom software. We've created this series to help customers learn more about the software development process and the key things that set development projects up for success. In this episode, I'm talking to Elle from Elle herself, Welle Club and Well Essentials about her journey as a creator and her desire to create tools for her viewers to help them on their own health journeys. So Elle, welcome to this podcast that we're recording about solving problems with technology. So great to have you here, and thanks for being part of this episode.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, pleasure. Where I wanted to start was just if you share a little bit about your background, where you started in terms of your current business journey, and then I'll go for it with a few questions from there.
That sounds good. I'm Elle from Christchurch, 35. My story really began as working as a lawyer full-time. I had gained weight during my studies and then working as a junior litigator, and I was looking for ways in which I could make kind of some healthy lifestyle changes. I started documenting my process on Instagram for accountability and to connect with others. And over that experience, my Instagram grew. It also allowed me to have this creative outlet and a really quite technical job where I could share recipes while I was trying to make a healthy version of a McChicken burger and all sorts of things like that. So I loved that part of it, and that also resonated with an audience that found me. So over time, as I continued to share on Instagram, that grew. The demand for my recipes grew, and that led me to release a digital product, which kind of started this snowball effect where I am today with 2 supplementary businesses that kind of sit alongside my business as a creator on Instagram.
Awesome. I can relate in terms of that, starting doing something while you're in other jobs, because I started Smudge while I was doing other work as well and just started making apps outside and just became something that grew. What was the point for you that you realized, I want to do this full time and do this other work as opposed to the law firm work? Was it multiple points? What did that look like?
Yeah, I absolutely loved being a lawyer, but when I drilled down why I loved being a lawyer, the thing that gave me the most joy every day going to work wasn't actually the work. It was connecting with clients. So the type of law I did was litigation, where somebody comes to you and they have a problem and they're only there because the problem is one that they've been unable to get a solution for themselves. And being somebody who they could trust to help, who had their back, who wanted an outcome for them that was a positive one, I really enjoyed that part of my role and found it really fulfilling. And that was what I was also doing through my Instagram as well. The primary purpose of what I was sharing was I wanted to provide solutions for other people looking for healthier options to make small changes and see results. And so I was able to find what gave me joy in my job with what I was doing in Instagram work. I also am really fortunate. My sister, she's a full-time creator. She's a YouTube creator. Yeah. And it was her that was kind of motivating me, saying, you really should give this a go. And I had the ability to take a risk because I have a really supportive husband who was like, if this doesn't work out, you've got your degree as a lawyer, we can just go back there. But yeah, it was quite funny because when I actually left my role as a lawyer, people were saying, it's really good your husband is, looking after you. But I was making more from the sale of my digital product than my salary and my husband's salary. So it was, we were okay.
I think it's one of I remember, even for me, like when we were making some random apps and things, the perception was like, these are just these random little things, like where is it going to go? And it sounds like you had a similar kind of thing from externally. People would be, what are you spending time on Instagram? And
Yeah. It's not understood, which is really, it's exciting because you get it and you see this potential in this kind of new frontier. But it was also quite tiring trying to justify what you're doing to people. And there sort of has been it doesn't feel like I've reached a point where people kind of see that I work, because what I do isn't perceived as work. which I'm very, very fortunate for. I absolutely love what I do, and that was always a driver and a goal for me, was to have the ability to have more flexibility in my schedule. I knew that I wanted a family with my husband one day. I wanted to be able to hopefully have that flexibility to be at events if I wanted to go to, like, the school, whatever. Yeah. And so that was a big goal of mine. But yeah, it's funny how people...
I think there's almost this, and I have a very similar feeling with apps where our goal is to make something look and feel very simple.
Yes.
And to get to the point that something feels very simple usually takes a lot of work. And so the more simple the thing is, often the more work there is in it. And I feel like in that creative kind of space, probably something that looks like it's no effort and it's kind of like, very casual or any of that sort of stuff, probably actually has a lot more behind in terms of planning and thinking about where it fits with all the other content that you do, all those kinds of things.
Yes. My sister describes it as being a duck. It's like you are seen as a duck because you're calm, you're floating on water, but underneath you're like pedaling like crazy. Yeah. And there is a lot of, I love to talk about it, so like I talk about it all day, but there's a lot of strategy and all kinds of things because content creation, that's sort of, I'm a creator-led business, so that's one part of my business. And speaking about that specifically, there's all kinds of things to take into consideration around, engagement, like what hook are you opening with? What's your first shot? Like retention, and you're getting more and more information from the platforms that you're posting on too, so you can really track and analyze what works and what doesn't. And I absolutely love like nerding out and testing and playing around with different things, because my goal is to create content that users who find me find helpful and it adds value to their life. And then because it takes time and energy and effort, obviously it's tiring and exhausting when you're uploading to 20 people, who end up seeing it. Yeah. But we all start there. And if you just kind of keep grinding, keep playing around, you get that 1% better each time. But yeah, I can definitely see the similarities between what I do and what you do too in that way.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I think it definitely, I can really relate to that, the duck, where it's like, oh, it made this thing and it does this thing, but actually to get there, there's so much working behind it.
There's so much work.
So in terms of content that you've created, are there any that have really stood out, you've been really proud of? Anything that's like, so for me, I always look at it and go, any work, I'm always kind of my last piece of work is the thing that I think is the most the best, because it's like has all the thinking from the other things. What does it look like for you in terms of?
Are you really critical of your own work though? I'm super critical.
Yes, yeah, definitely, because it's like, I have this example with painting. Mm-hmm. I would way rather get someone else to paint the wall, not because I'm not very good at painting a wall anyway, but if I do it, I'll notice every single little thing that could have been better. Yeah. And then if I'm walking past that every single day, I'll notice it. Whereas if someone else has done it, I'm not going to go and notice like that little
hyperfixation on the little imperfections. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. So I have had content do really well and it's gone viral. And those viral pieces of content, I mean, there's an element of luck in that the algorithm picked it up. Yeah. But also all of those pieces of content do follow a set formula that I follow to try to create that viral content. Yeah. So I'm proud that it gets that reach, that engagement, and it connects with people. But I'm also very much like, I wish that my voice didn't peak at that point. I should have cut there. That bit was shaky. Like I see all of that as I'm watching it.
Yeah. Yeah, that totally makes sense.
But also I try to tell myself, if you wait until it's perfect, it will never get released. Yeah. So you have to jump in at some point and be willing for it not to be perfect, and then just keep plowing through.
Yeah.
As you go.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I find it slightly meta in some ways in that we're recording a podcast and making content right now. And it's that same sort of thing, right? Where, you want to have it at a certain level of quality and all these kinds of things. And, but actually better, like making something is better than trying to get something to the perfect level and not shipping anything.
Yeah, all of those quotes like, you'll never feel ready to start. Yeah, those ring so true. And I think a lot of people who have that like entrepreneurial spirit have that perfectionist element to them as well, where you really truly want to put out there into the world something that you're proud of, and that's good. But yeah, try to remind yourself that you will get better over time, and it's that practice makes perfect thing as well.
Yeah, and that continuously looking and observing and going, how could this be better, and using that knowledge and information to make the subsequent ones that you're doing better.
Yes.
So, Instagram creator, what was the point that you decided to start building software? Because that's quite because I think then building software, and I'd love to talk about your journey in that space. Where did you see a need in the market, and where was that something that you thought would be beneficial for people that you were communicating with?
With the recipes side of things, I was releasing those as ebooks, and demand for those was continuing. But as the recipe ebooks went out, people were also asking for me to put those into meal plans for them. And people had different, calorie goals or dietary requirements, and there's no way I could have kept up with that.
Doing a custom meal plan every someone says, oh, can I have this particular one? Yeah.
Exactly. And also I wanted to, it's that teach a man to fish kind of mentality. That's part of something that I've shared the whole way, is I try to educate people along the way so that they can make choices that work for them rather than adhering to strict kind of guidelines and rules, because that one stop shop that just doesn't apply to a healthy lifestyle. What it looks like for you, what it looks like for me, they're different. Yeah. And I think it's more important to normalize that. So having a tool that people could access where they could access those recipes and then create a meal plan, get all the information they need, make it work for them. I was like, that's really what I would dream to do. So over time, as I continued to sell my ebooks, I just squirreled money away to save to one day hopefully tackle that dream, which I coined Welle Club, and that is how I started that process to creating software. Yeah, calling it.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so, how did you had this picture there in your head? You're like, had this problem that you wanted to solve effectively for people that you're engaging with. What was the point then that you started to go, how do I turn this into something, and what did that look like? Yeah,
it's so hard because how do you Google, I'd like this, and then when you do, there's all these, I don't know, it feels very cowboyish as well, because it's like a space that's not fully understood. So I feel like it could be quite easy to like bring somebody in, like same with content creators, and that it's a little bit of like the Wild West, there's no kind of set sort of regulatory framework as to how you have to operate.
Yeah, it's not like, I think, traditional, like an electrician or a plumber or a builder, and there's very, very specific guidelines. We have very set ways of doing particular things. Exactly. There's a lot of legislation around, say as an electrician, exact parts and how you use them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As opposed to in this industry, it's definitely a free-for-all.
It can be. It totally can be. And also, you can have people who, are self-taught or have elements of being self-taught and have that experience to back it up. And you have other people who have gone other routes.
Yep.
There's no degree to do like content creation. So yeah, it's very much a difficult place to jump in and begin. But I had a friend recommend a design agency to help me bring the concept to life and get it going. So that's how Welle Club began, was actually as a website that had functionality elements of an app. And it was the most cost-effective way to do that at the time because of the costs involved of me jumping straight into an app. So that's what I did first, was put that time and energy into really creating a brand that embodied the feelings and vibe and vision that I had for Welle Club, which I really love how it turned out and how it looks, and I still love that to this day. And then over time, I've been able to sort of chip away at it. It's kind of with all of my businesses, I've really started slowly. It's not a very exciting way to explain it. I've never jumped in, gone to the bank, demanded a loan, invested it all, put it all on the line. I kind of have, I guess, like hedged my bets, started small, seen how the response has gone, tried to be flexible, and then move to the next stage.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense as well in terms of the goals that you've talked about wanting to get out of your business and what you want it to look like. So you went to a design agency. They came up with a concept, built an initial version of this website.
Yes.
How did customers respond to it? What did it like? What was the initial feedback from?
It was very cool because I was very quiet about what was going on. I left my job as a lawyer in June of that year. Originally, I thought that I could go to part-time hours as a lawyer and then work those other part-time hours, entering recipes, doing all this back-end work to get the content there. And then when we launched at the end of the year, it was November we launched, it would be all good to go. And then I could continue being a lawyer part-time and then doing that part-time. I also, this is like a side note, but I felt like having that job as a lawyer made me more relatable to my audience because I had a job that was like understood by people, because I can't show a lot of what I do during the day because it's boring to watch me, data entry effectively, my recipes. But there was just too much work involved. And as you said, with like the simple functionality, behind the scenes, there's a lot that goes in to make that work. So I left my job and worked those months full time, like massive days, weekends, nights, everything, getting all that content to launch. And then when people saw it and it launched and they were like, whoa, this is a legitimate thing. I think people thought I was maybe building up hype for another ebook or something. They're like, wow, that's a real thing. But that was back in 2020. That was pandemic year. And now we're 2024. It's crazy how fast technology moves, isn't it? And I didn't take really that into account, how quickly you also need to switch and move to keep pace with what's happening. So that has been a big learning experience for me, and continuing to meet my members' needs, because that initial response and how excited they were in their stories, like that's what drives me every day to continue serving them like that.
Yeah. In terms of the recipes, how many recipes did you got in that first slot?
We launched, I think it was 300, and now we have 1,000, something like that.
And these are all recipes that you've made at some. So it's not like if I just went to ChatGPT and said, "Give me a recipe for doing this thing," and it turns out it's put these random ingredients together that from statistically are likely to go together, but it doesn't actually have consideration necessarily around like what I actually need in terms of health outcomes or any other kinds of things. Where do you use GPTs for inspiration now, or like what does that look like?
I have GPT-4, so I have customized ones for various things to help me with streamlining my work. So one that I find quite helpful is like a conversion. It's just a lot faster. I used to have to use Google to be like, convert this amount, because I have imperial and metric. And over time, I was able to kind of memorize what they were. But it's just faster to just give the list of my measurements in however format I want. I want a cup of this, a tablespoon of this, and it will give me imperial and metric measurements for various weights of ingredients. So I've been able to streamline aspects of my day. And like, I wonder if in time there might be a way to build in AI into Welle Club to like help people, like as it becomes more and more. I'd love that, because I definitely think there's a place, but I do get really frustrated and have a very frank conversation in my chat logs. Like, why are you suggesting these things? Like, this makes no sense. And I know that because of the hours and amount of ingredients that have been wasted on testing out concepts and knowing that they just don't work.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
especially because I use a lot of like alternative ingredients like almond flour, coconut flour.
Yeah.
But again, over time, ChatGPT may learn how those operate.
Okay.
But yeah, so I am able to kind of fact check, I guess, stuff like that if I'm.
Yeah, so if when you're on Welle Club or even just if you're following you on Instagram,
Yes.
you know that part of your message you're giving to people is, I make all of these. This is not just like
I do. Me and my brain. It's funny though, because like you think you have an original idea and then is there? Yeah.
Yeah.
But my brain is constantly whirling and thinking about different recipes, and I have a huge Google Doc that's separated into different categories with my ideas for things. So it goes through, there's a little team of us that actually test recipes as well, so that before they go live, more than me have tested them to make sure that these instructions actually work, so people can feel confident that it will work for them too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. There's nothing worse when you go to cook something and then it's kind of like you don't have the right skills or knowledge to be able to do it. Yeah, it can be so tricky.
But we also, with Welle Club, as we've grown, having our community there are amazing creations that they make, having a place to spotlight those and for them to share those with the Welle Club community as well is something that we're working to make more accessible. So that should hopefully be coming soon for people to be able to share their creations as well and get other people making them too.
Okay. That sounds good. And obviously, well, not obviously, but then hopefully we can help with that. So one thing I wanted to jump into a little bit is with sort of where Smudge came into the picture with Welle Club. And I think there's this thing around software that I find, and it can be so quick to get to like the 80%, and you can go and use a tool and you're going, oh yeah, okay, this looks like pretty much what I want it to do. But often like just getting that last bit of the detail right and finishing those. And I think that's where, from the difference between like a creative agency and then like a software agency can have like quite a different kind of perspective around building things. What has that been like in terms of your experience of working with us and doing that that software idea around, something looks like it's 80%, but actually testing in a variety of different situations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. Actually, when I was pregnant with the twins, my husband Dave and I would go for like walks around the park, and what I would talk about pretty much every time was actually about the dream for Welle Club. Like, how can we really take it from that, like being a web platform, to be more app and functioning more as an app? And the park in Christchurch where we live is really close to where Dave went to high school.
Okay.
And that's actually our connection, is through my husband Dave, you went to the same school together. So that's how that idea got prompted, as he was walking there, seeing the school, being like, actually, I went to school with some guys who do, I'm pretty sure they do like they like specialize in apps. And so it was from there that we kind of teased that out. And I was like, do you think they'd take a look at Welle Club to give some ideas? Because in business, I try to go to specialists for my various needs. So I actually work with Meta, who have the Instagram platform. I have a partner manager there. I've been invited to the program. So they help me hyper-focus on Instagram, hyper-focus on what's going there. But I would never go to like the design agency and ask them for help in that.
Sure, yeah.
But they could help me with how it looks, kind of thing. And then for creating Welle Club into an app, that's what I really wanted, was a team that could help me hyper-focus on making sure that we're in line with industry kind of standards, expectations of customers, and be able to draw that expert knowledge that you and your team have. So as soon as we did start working with Smudge, it was really exciting because it was keeping pace with that next step where we're at in our business. Our next step is really drilling down into the app, going back to user experience, making sure that it is the best that it can be for them and that we have the tools and the functionality to support them. And that was something that, you and your team have excelled at, because it's what you do. It's your...
Yeah, and I think there's lots of different just industry knowledge things that you have, like, this should work this way, this should work like that. They're able to quite quickly and easily be able to help with, I think, particularly with the app side and what you'd already done with the website and being able to, be able to ship that in a different format.
What I liked was that when we started working together, you could see the brand, and you're able to see that there was like a strong brand there that I wanted to continue through. But yeah, your knowledge it's been so helpful and crucial in just making lots of small tweaks and suggestions and things that I wouldn't have thought of, like this pathway should take a user here or give these options, or we should, move this around for better flow. And those are all the things that I don't want members to notice, or they won't notice that's happened, but it has such a big impact overall in user experience, and that's the goal, really.
Yeah, I think there's so interesting with like that user experience piece where there are some things that are de facto standards just because they're so common for other people to do, or just generally good practice to tie in. But
see, if I had to spend the time to learn what those were, I don't have the time in the day. Neither do you to find out about how almond flour and coconut flour work together, maybe, So it's really cool to have that collaborative environment where you can find somebody who's got that knowledge, tap into it, and like move more effectively. Because something that people don't actually take into consideration as a creator, and I'm not complaining because it's very privileged and I'm very grateful to be able to do it, but I still have to, put petrol in my car. I still have to put food on the table for the kids, that kind of thing. And there is so much time that goes into creating the free content that I do need revenue sources to support me being able to do that. And so having different streams is really important. There's brand deals, there's paid members who get access to more recipes, more features, more support. But all of those play a really important role. So I sort of need all of those to be able to continue doing it. Otherwise, you can't live on.
Yeah, and that diversity as well in terms of, whatever the trends are happening in different spaces, then hopefully they don't all hit the same kind of issue in one place.
Yeah, that's definitely the hope. But I got a message on Sunday night. No, it was yesterday, sorry. They saw me on Sunday and they said that, they saw us walking through the mall and they were just having coffee at a cafe, and the person pointed to her, like she was with her husband, and said, that's the girl who's helping me. Yeah, okay. That's the girl whose recipes I'm making. She's a member of Welle Club. And I was just like, biggest dopamine hit, biggest motivating thing, because that's why I started making the recipes myself, was to see those changes in my life and to feel better. Yeah. So to be able to make that accessible and a place for people and for them to see the difference is like, okay, cool. I just have to keep focusing on this. This is like the motivating factor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool experience.
Yeah, it was cool. So thank you for helping me make Welle Club better for them too. I appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure. So where do you see the future for Welle Club and the other products and things you're offering at the moment?
Yeah, I haven't shared that. So for those not familiar, I've got Elle herself, my Instagram and social media accounts where it all started. Welle Club came next, and then we launched Welle Essentials, which is our healthy supplement range. And one thing that I'm really excited to be working with your team on is the connectivity across all of them. So there's other ways for us to kind of just make that experience kind of more seamless, that they work together but work separately. So I honestly feel like I am paving the road as I'm walking it. So I can't tell you where I'll be in a week, in a month kind of thing. And I love that as well, but I have no idea where it will go.
That makes sense. I kind of think of it as I'm pulling like a bunch of different threads and just seeing like how long they go for, like what they end up looking like. And that's kind of, it's not often, it can be really rewarding. Mm-hmm. But if you want to know exactly what each one's going to look like, then it would be very frustrating. I think as a business owner, it's kind of like that. I've got these 5 ideas, they're going this way, but you have to wait and see how the market responds, how other things fit, and
Exactly. I do know that I would love to continue building our team, continue building that, like bringing people on who are part of our team. And that's sort of, what's I'm focusing on is growing it that way. But yeah, it's a fun, exciting time for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming and recording this with me today, and for some of the insights that you shared just around your journey with your business and particularly with building software. So yeah, really appreciate that.
Thank you. And if anyone wants to find me, just check out Elle herself and you'll find it all.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. We really hope that you got something out of this conversation. If you have any questions that have arisen, please reach out on our website, smudge.com.